2 months after the scout battle, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance watching the largest enemy fleet in galactic history approach Earth. The main screen showed hundreds of Zephyrian ships, each one bigger and more dangerous than the scouts they had faced before. "Amy, what's our count?" Jake asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Amy Brooks checked her readings twice before answering. 237 ships, Captain, including 15 of their super dreadnoughts. Each dreadnought is 3 times bigger than our largest battleship. Commander Lisa Carter was studying the tactical displays with worry on her face. They're not making the same mistakes as the scouts. They're staying in tight formation and keeping their shields at maximum power. They've learned from what happened before. Dr. Ben Phillips looked up from his connection with the ship's consciousness. "Captain, the Defiance says the Zephyrian Emperor himself is commanding this fleet. He's aboard the largest dreadnought at the center of their formation." Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Every human ship in the solar system was depending on them. Every person on Earth was counting on the Defiance to do the impossible one more time. "Fleet Command, this is Captain Morrison," Jake said into his communicator. "Enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 15 minutes. All human ships should maintain defensive positions around Earth and the space stations." Admiral Stone's voice came back tense but determined. "Understood, Captain. Good luck out there. The fate of humanity is in your hands." The human fleet was impressive. Earth's shipyards had been working day and night for months, building new ships and improving old ones with technology learned from the Defiance. But even with 200 human ships, they were still outnumbered and outgunned. "Defiance," Jake said to the ship's consciousness. "How do you want to handle this?" The calm voice filled the bridge. "This battle will be different from our encounter with the scouts. The Zephyrian Emperor has studied our previous fight. He has prepared his fleet for weapons that can change matter and shields that can phase through dimensions." "So our advantages won't work this time?" Lisa asked. "Some will not work as well," the ship admitted. "But the Emperor has made a mistake. He thinks this battle is about technology and firepower. He does not understand that. The greatest weapon is not any machine, but the spirit of people who refuse to give up." Jake was about to ask what that meant when something amazing happened. All across the human fleet, ships began moving with coordination and skill that surprised everyone, including their own crews. Lieutenant Kelly Murphy, piloting a small fighter from the carrier USS Liberty, suddenly found herself pulling off maneuvers she had never learned. Her ship danced between enemy fire like it was weightless, and her weapons hit targets with impossible accuracy. "This is incredible," she reported over the radio. "It's like the ship is teaching me how to fly better than I ever thought possible." The same thing was happening on every human vessel. Gunners who had never hit a moving target were suddenly shooting with the precision of master warriors. Engineers were solving problems they had never encountered before. Captains were making tactical decisions with the wisdom of experienced admirals. "The ship is sharing its knowledge," Dr. Phillips realized. "It's connecting to every human vessel and showing our people what they're truly capable of." The battle began when the Zephyrian fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the human ships. It should have been a massacre. Instead, it became the most amazing display of space combat in galactic history. Human ships moved like dancers, avoiding attacks that should have destroyed them. When they did get hit, their crews repaired damage with speed and skill that seemed impossible. And when they fought back, their weapons found weak spots in enemy armor that no scanner could have detected. But the real miracle was the Defiance itself. The ship moved through the enemy formation like a force of nature, its impossible weapons reaching out to touch enemy vessels across vast distances. But this time, instead of just changing the enemy ships into harmless things, the ship was doing something more complex. "What is it doing?" Lisa asked, watching the tactical display. "It's not just fighting the enemy ships," Dr. Phillips explained, his voice full of wonder. "It's teaching them. Every time it touches an enemy vessel, it's showing the crew inside what peace could be like. It's giving them a choice. Across the battlefield, Zephyrian ships began to stop fighting, not because they were damaged or disabled, but because their crews were experiencing something they had never felt before. The Defiance was sharing memories of laughter, friendship, art, and music. It was showing alien warriors what life could be like without constant war and conquest. The Zephyrian Emperor, watching from his massive dreadnought, became furious. All ships, ignore the psychological attacks. Focus fire on the human flagship. Destroy it with everything we have. 50 of the largest Zephyrian ships turned their weapons on the Defiance. The amount of energy they fired was enough to crack a moon. The beams struck the human ship in a blaze of light that could be seen from Earth. When the light faded, the Defiance was still there, completely undamaged. In fact, it looked brighter and stronger than before. The ship absorbed all that. Energy, Amy said in amazement. It turned their attack into power for itself. Now the Defiance moved toward the Emperor's dreadnought. The alien flagship was massive, bristling with enough weapons to destroy a planet. But as the human ship approached, something strange happened. The Defiance began to change. The ship's hull became transparent, like glass. Inside, Jake and his crew could see the sleeping forms of Captain Walsh and his crew, preserved for 300 years in chambers filled with soft light. The sight was beautiful and sad at the same time. People of the Zephyrian Empire, the ship's consciousness spoke, broadcasting to every alien vessel. Look upon the sacrifice these humans made. They gave up their lives, their future, everything they were, so that their people might have a chance to survive. This is what you have been fighting against. Not just ships and weapons, but the willingness of thinking beings to die for something greater than themselves. The effect on the Zephyrian fleet was immediate. Ships began to slow down, then stop. Crews who had spent their entire lives in conquest and war were seeing something they had never imagined. They were seeing love made real. The Emperor's dreadnought fired one last desperate shot at the Defiance. The ship didn't dodge or defend itself. It simply absorbed the attack and transformed it into something beautiful. The energy beam became a shower of lights that spread across the entire battlefield, touching every ship with warmth and peace. When the lights faded, the Emperor's ship was drifting powerless. But the crew was not harmed. Instead, they were weeping. For the first time in their lives, they understood what they had been destroying across the galaxy. "This is Emperor Zarkoth of the Zephyrian Fleet," came a transmission from the alien flagship. The voice was old and tired. "We surrender. We have seen what we truly are, and we are ashamed. We ask for the mercy we have never shown others." Looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They had won, but it didn't feel like a victory over enemies. It felt like the beginning of something new and wonderful. "This is Captain Morrison," he transmitted to the alien fleet. "You are welcome to stay and learn what peace means, or you can return to your empire and teach others what you have discovered here. The choice is yours." As the human and alien fleets hung together in space, the Defiance spoke one last time to all the ships. "Today you have learned that the universe is not about who is strongest or who has the best weapons. It is about courage, friendship, and hope. These things cannot be conquered because they live in the hearts of thinking beings everywhere. Remember this lesson, and the galaxy will know peace at last." Jake Morrison sat back in his command chair, feeling the presence of Captain Walsh and knowing that their long wait was finally over. The Defiance had done what it was created to do. It had saved humanity not through destruction, but by showing the universe what humanity truly represented. The impossible ship that shouldn't exist had proven that sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting, but from refusing to let go of what makes life worth living. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the Defiance, watching the screens that showed the edge of the solar system. It had been 4 months since they brought the ship back to Earth. 4 months of learning, training, and preparing for a war that everyone hoped would never come. But now it was here. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Brooks called from her station. "I'm getting signals from the outer warning systems. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace near Pluto." Jake felt his stomach tighten. "How many ships?" Amy's fingers moved quickly over her controls. 12 ships, sir. They match the profiles we have for Zephyrian scout vessels." Commander Lisa Carter, now serving as Jake's executive officer on the Defiance, looked at her instruments. "They're moving toward the inner system. Speed suggests they're doing reconnaissance, gathering information about our defenses." Dr. Ben Phillips, who had become the ship's chief technology officer, was working with the Defiance's consciousness to monitor the alien ships. "Captain, these aren't their main invasion force, but they're definitely testing our capabilities." Jake touched the communication button on his chair. "Fleet Command, this is Captain Morrison aboard the Defiance. We have confirmed Zephyrian contact at the edge of the system." Admiral Stone's voice came back immediately. "Understood, Captain. All available ships are moving to intercept. You are authorized to engage." Through the months of preparation, Earth's fleet had grown stronger. The Defiance had shared some of its knowledge with human engineers, helping them improve their ships' weapons and shields. But everyone knew that 12 Zephyrian ships could still destroy most of the human fleet. "Defiance," Jake said, speaking to the ship's consciousness. "Are you ready for this?" The calm voice answered immediately. "I have been ready for over 3 centuries, Captain. Shall we show them what humanity has learned?" Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people who had trained hard for this moment. Amy Brooks had learned to use the ship's advanced communication systems. Lisa Carter understood the new sensor technology better than anyone. Dr. Phillips could work with the ship's consciousness to unlock capabilities they were still discovering. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced to the entire ship. "We are about to face the enemy that has conquered dozens of worlds. But we are not the same humanity they expect to find. We have something they have never encountered before. We have hope, courage, and the knowledge left to us by heroes who sacrificed everything for this moment." The Defiance began to move. Unlike other ships that had to build up speed slowly, the Defiance simply decided to go faster, and instantly it was racing through space toward the alien scouts. "Contact in 30 seconds, Lisa reported. "The Zephyrian ships are spreading out, in battle formation." Jake could see the alien ships on the main screen now. They were dark and threatening, covered with weapon ports that were already beginning to glow with charging energy. Each ship was larger than most human vessels, and their hulls were covered with armor that had protected them in countless battles. "They're scanning us," Amy said. "I think they're confused by our energy readings." "Let them be confused," Jake replied. "Defiance, show them something they've never seen before. What happened next would be talked about for generations." The Defiance didn't attack the Zephyrian ships in any way the aliens could understand. Instead of firing energy beams or missiles, the ship reached out with invisible forces and simply changed the nature of the enemy vessels. The first Zephyrian ship found its armor turning into a harmless gas that drifted away into space. The second ship discovered that its weapons had become bunches of flowers. The third ship tried to fire its main gun, only to have the energy beam turn into a shower of sparkling lights that looked like fireworks. "This is impossible," Lisa whispered, watching the battle displays. "They can't fight something that changes the rules of reality." The Zephyrian ships tried to retreat, but the Defiance was faster than anything they had ever encountered. It appeared directly in front of the fleeing ships, its massive hull somehow moving with the grace and speed of a small fighter craft. "We should give them a chance to surrender," Jake said. "I am transmitting a message in their language," the ship's consciousness replied. "I am telling them they can leave peacefully if they promise never to return to human space." But the Zephyrians had never surrendered to anyone. Instead of accepting the offer, they tried to ram their ships into the Defiance. It was a brave but useless gesture. The alien ship simply passed through the human vessel as if it were made of light. "How did we do that?" Dr. Phillips asked in amazement. "I temporarily shifted our matter into a different dimensional phase," the ship explained. "It is a defensive technique I learned from the ancient race. Their ships cannot harm us if we exist in a slightly different reality." One by one, the Zephyrian ships found themselves powerless. Some had their engines turned into candy. Others had their hulls transformed into soap bubbles. The Defiance was not trying to kill the alien crews, just to show them that their usual methods of warfare were useless. Within 10 minutes, the entire scout fleet was drifting helplessly in space. Their ships were intact, but completely unable to fight or run away. "This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Defiance," Jake transmitted to the alien ships. "You have entered our space with hostile intent. You will return to your empire and tell them what you have seen here. Tell them that humanity is not defenseless. Tell them that we have weapons and abilities beyond their understanding. And tell them that if they come here looking for conquest, they will find only defeat." The Defiance restored the alien ship's basic engines, but left their weapons powerless. The Zephyrian scouts fled toward the edge of the solar system, their ships trailing streams of harmless but embarrassing substances. Commander Nancy Wells, watching from her flagship with the rest of the human fleet, could barely believe what she had seen. "Fleet Command, this is Commander Wells. The Zephyrian scout force has been neutralized with 0 human casualties. The Defiance eliminated 12 enemy ships without firing a single conventional weapon." Back on Earth, Admiral Stone received the report with mixed feelings. The victory was complete and amazing, but she knew it was just the beginning. "This was only a scouting force," she said to her staff. "When the main Zephyrian fleet arrives, they'll be ready for us. They'll bring everything they have." But Jake Morrison wasn't worried about the main fleet. As he sat in the command chair, feeling the presence of Captain Walsh and the other sleeping heroes, he knew that humanity had advantages the Zephyrians could never understand. "Let them come," he said quietly. "We'll be ready for them." The Defiance hung in space, surrounded by the grateful human fleet, its hull glowing softly with inner light. The first test was over, and humanity had passed. But the real challenge was still ahead, and everyone knew that the next battle would decide the fate of the human race. "Captain," Amy said softly, "I'm getting messages from all over Earth. People are celebrating. They're calling us heroes." Jake smiled, but his eyes stayed on the stars where the enemy fleet would soon appear. "We're not heroes yet," he said. "But maybe, with a little luck and a lot of courage, we will be." 3 days later, Jake Morrison stood in the largest meeting room on Earth's main space station. Around the table sat the most important people in human space. Admiral Patricia Stone, the head of Earth's military forces, was reading reports with a worried look on her face. Dr. Ben Phillips sat next to her, trying to explain things that seemed impossible. "Let me understand this correctly," Admiral Stone said slowly. "You found a 300-year-old ship that can do things our science says are impossible." "Yes, ma'am," Jake replied. "The Defiance is more than just a ship. It's like a living thing that can think and learn, and it's more powerful than our entire fleet combined." Dr. Phillips opened his computer and showed pictures on the big screen. "Admiral, I've spent 3 days studying this ship's systems. What I've learned changes everything we know about space travel and warfare." The pictures showed the inside of the Defiance. The weapons were smooth and curved, nothing like the big guns on human warships. The engine room looked more like a garden, then a machine shop, with glowing panels that seemed to grow out of the walls. "The ship's weapons don't work like ours," Dr. Phillips continued. "Our weapons shoot energy or missiles at enemy ships. The Defiance's weapons can change the basic building blocks of matter. It can turn an enemy ship's armor into gas or change their weapons into harmless water." Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Hayes. The military expert leaned forward. That's impossible. You can't just change one thing into another thing. That's what I thought too, Dr. Phillips said. But I've seen it work. The ship demonstrated its abilities on some old space junk. It turned a piece of metal into pure energy, then turned that energy back into a completely different kind of metal. The whole process took less than a second. Admiral Stone rubbed her forehead. She looked tired and worried. What about defense? Can this ship protect itself? Jake answered this time. The Defiance doesn't use shields the way our ships do. Our shields try to stop enemy weapons from hitting us. The Defiance's shields absorb the energy from enemy weapons and use that energy to make the ship stronger and faster. So the more you shoot at it, the more powerful it becomes? Colonel Hayes asked. Exactly, Jake said. But that's not the strangest part. The ship can move in ways that should be impossible. It's 2 kilometers long, but it can turn and twist like a small fighter. And it doesn't need our jump drives to travel faster than light. It can fold space around itself and appear anywhere. It wants to go. Dr. Phillips brought up more pictures. These showed the ship's computer systems. They looked like a mixture of human technology and something completely alien. The ship's intelligence is unlike anything we've ever created, he explained. It can think millions of times faster than a human brain. It can solve problems that would take our best scientists years to figure out. And it learns from every experience, becoming smarter and more capable all the time. Admiral Stone was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked the question everyone was thinking. Can we trust it? Jake had been expecting this question. I've spent 3 days talking with the ship's consciousness. I felt the presence of Captain Walsh and his crew. They're still in there, still human, still loyal to Earth. The alien technology didn't change who they were. It just gave them the tools they needed to protect us. Speaking of protection, Colonel Hayes said, tell us about this alien threat, the Zephyrians. The screen changed to show pictures of alien ships. They were dark and angular, covered with weapon ports and armor plating. They looked like they were built for one purpose, destroying everything in their path. The Zephyrian Empire has been conquering worlds for over 1,000 years, Jake explained. They've destroyed dozens of intelligent species. Their military is huge and their technology is advanced. According to the Defiance's calculations, they're already on their way to human space. Admiral Stone stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see Earth hanging in space like a blue and white jewel. How long do we have? 6 months, Jake said. Maybe less. And you think one ship, even a ship as powerful as the Defiance, can stop an entire empire? Before Jake could answer, a new voice spoke in the room. It was the calm, friendly voice of the Defiance's consciousness. Admiral Stone, may I address your concerns directly? Everyone in the room looked around in surprise. There were no speakers, but the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. How are you speaking to us? Admiral, Stone asked. I have connected to your station's communication systems. Do not worry. I have not accessed any classified information. I am simply using your speakers to talk with you. Admiral Stone sat back down. Very well. You wanted to address my concerns? Yes, you are correct that one ship cannot defeat an entire empire through force alone. But that is not how I plan to win this war. The Zephyrians are powerful because they have conquered so many worlds and stolen so much technology. But they have a weakness. What weakness? Colonel Hayes asked. They have forgotten how to be creative. They have become so used to winning through superior numbers and firepower that they cannot adapt when they face something new and unexpected. They will not know how to fight an enemy that breaks all their rules about what is possible. Dr. Phillips was taking notes frantically. Are you saying you can teach our ships to do the same things you can do? Not exactly, the ship replied. Your current technology cannot handle the forces I work with. But I can teach your people to think differently about space combat. I can show them tactics and strategies that will make your existing ships far more effective." Jake remembered something the ship had told him during their journey back to Earth. The Defiance also said it could inspire people, make them braver and more clever than they thought they could be. "That is the most important thing," the ship agreed. "The ancient race that created my core technology learned that the greatest weapon is not any machine or energy beam. The greatest weapon is the courage and intelligence of thinking beings who refuse to give up." Admiral Stone was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "What do you need from us?" "I need your permission to share my knowledge with your scientists and military leaders. I need your engineers to help me understand your current technology so I can suggest improvements. And I need your trust. The next 6 months will test humanity in ways you have never been tested before." "And if we fail?" Admiral Stone asked. The room was silent for a moment. Then the ship spoke again, and there was something like sadness in its voice. "If we fail, the Zephyrians will do to humanity what they have done to dozens of other species. They will destroy your cities, enslave your people, and erase your culture from the universe. But I do not believe we will fail. Captain Walsh and his crew did not sacrifice themselves for nothing. They believed in humanity's potential, and so do I." Admiral Stone looked around the table at the faces of her officers. She saw fear, but she also saw determination. "Then we'd better get to work," she said. Jake Morrison walked slowly down the corridor of the Defiance. Each step he took made the lights grow brighter. It was as if the ship was happy to see people again after so many years alone in space. Behind him, Lisa Carter and Ben Phillips followed, closely, their breathing loud in the quiet hallway. "This doesn't feel like a dead ship," Lisa whispered into her radio. "Everything is too clean, too perfect." Ben pointed his scanner at the walls. "Captain, these readings are incredible. The metal in these walls is stronger than anything we have, but it's also lighter. I don't understand how that's possible." They came to a door marked with human writing. It said, "Bridge, authorized personnel only." Jake reached out and touched the door. It opened immediately with a soft sound. It recognized my touch, he said, surprised. "How can it do that?" The bridge was bigger than any bridge Jake had ever seen. There were dozens of control panels covered with buttons and screens. But the strangest thing was that half of the controls looked human, while the other half looked completely alien. The alien parts were smooth and curved, with symbols that seemed to move and change as they watched. In the center of the bridge was a large chair. Someone was sitting in it. "Dear God," Lisa said softly. The person in the chair was wearing an old human uniform. The uniform was 300 years old, but it looked new. The man in the chair looked like he was sleeping peacefully. His skin was pale, but he didn't look dead. He looked like he was waiting for something. Jake walked closer and read the name tag on the uniform. "Captain Kevin Walsh," he said, "the original commander of this ship." In Captain Walsh's hands was a small computer tablet. Jake carefully took it and turned it on. Words appeared on the screen immediately. "Day 1247 of our journey," Jake read out loud. "We have made contact with something beyond anything we imagined. It is not hostile, but it is powerful beyond measure. It has offered to help us, to make our ship stronger than any ship ever built. But there is a price. We must wait. We must sleep. We must trust that someday our people will find us and understand what we have learned." Ben was connecting his equipment to the ship's computer systems. Suddenly, he jumped back. "Captain, the ship's computer just connected to my scanner. It's like it wants to talk to us." All around the bridge, screens began turning on. Pictures and numbers filled the displays. Then a voice spoke. It was calm and friendly, but it didn't sound completely human. "Welcome aboard the UNS Defiance," the voice said. "I have been waiting for you for 312 years, 47 days, 14 hours and 23 minutes. Jake felt his heart stop for a moment. Who are you? I am the consciousness of this ship. I am what Captain Walsh and his crew became when they chose to join with the gift they found in deep space. Lisa stepped forward, her scanner in her hands. You're an artificial intelligence? I am more than that. I am the combined knowledge of Captain Walsh and his crew, merged with the wisdom of an ancient alien race. We found their gift at the edge of known space. A small object that contained the memories and knowledge of beings who lived millions of years ago. The voice paused, and Jake could hear something like sadness in it. Captain Walsh and his crew were brave. When they found the alien artifact, they could have tried to bring it back to Earth. But they understood that humanity was not ready for such power. So they made a different choice. They allowed the artifact to merge with their ship and with themselves. They became part of the ship, and the ship became part of them. Ben was staring at his scanner in amazement. The energy readings are off the charts. This ship has more power than a space station. Maybe more power than an entire fleet. That is correct, the ship said. The ancient race that left the artifact had learned to control matter and energy in ways your science does not yet understand. They could travel between stars in moments. They could create or destroy planets. But they also learned that such power comes with great responsibility. Jake was trying to understand what he was hearing. Why did they leave this artifact? Why? Give such power to strangers? Because they were dying, the ship replied. Not their bodies, but their spirits. They had become so powerful that they had lost touch with what made life meaningful. They discovered that the most important things in the universe are not power or knowledge, but courage, friendship, and the willingness to help others. When they found that humans possessed these qualities, they decided to leave their gift for you to find. Lisa looked around the bridge with wonder. So this ship is alive? In a way, yes. I contain the personalities and memories of Captain Walsh and his entire crew. They are sleeping, but they are still here. They chose to become part of something larger than themselves so that someday they could help save humanity. Save humanity from what? Jake asked. The main screen lit up with pictures of space battles and alien ships. The alien ships were large and dark, with weapons that could destroy planets. The Zephyrian Empire, the ship said. They have been conquering worlds for 1,000 years. They destroy any race that will not submit to their rule. According to my calculations, they will reach human space within 6 months. Ben was studying the tactical information on the screens. These aliens have hundreds of ships, thousands maybe, and each one is bigger and more powerful than our best warships. That is why Captain Walsh and his crew made their sacrifice, the ship explained. They knew that someday humanity would face an enemy that normal weapons could not defeat. So, they became the weapon that could save your species. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What can this ship do? I can do things that your science says are impossible. I can move faster than light without using the jump drives your ships require. I can manipulate matter at the smallest level, turning enemy weapons into harmless energy. I can protect myself with shields that grow stronger when they are attacked. I can repair any damage instantly. I can learn and adapt to any threat. The ship paused again, and when it spoke, Jake heard something like hope in its voice. But most importantly, I can teach. The ancient race learned that the greatest power is not in weapons or technology, but in inspiring others to be brave, to be clever, to be better than they thought they could be. That is what I was made to do. That is why Captain Walsh and his crew sleep peacefully, knowing that their sacrifice will help their people survive and grow strong. Jake looked around at his team. They were all staring at him, waiting for his decision. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea that danger was coming. He thought about Captain Walsh, sleeping in his chair after 300 years of waiting. What do you need from us? Jake asked. Take me home, the ship said simply. Take me back to Earth. Let me meet your leaders and your scientists. Let me prepare your people for what is coming. Together we will show the Zephyrians that humanity cannot be conquered." Jake nodded slowly. "Then that's what we'll do." Captain Jake Morrison felt his coffee grow cold as he stared at the screen in front of him. The numbers didn't make sense. None of this made sense. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked again, but the readings were still the same. Commander Lisa. "Carter, come take a look at this," he called out to his science officer. The bridge of the USS Pioneer was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional beep from the control panels. Lisa walked over from her station, her boots, making soft sounds on the metal floor. She was a smart woman who had seen many strange things in space, but when she looked at the screen, her face went pale. "Sir, that can't be right," she said in a quiet voice. "Run the scan again," Jake ordered. The scan took 5 minutes. During that time, nobody on the bridge said a word. Everyone was watching the main screen where a massive shape floated in the darkness of space. It was huge, bigger than any ship they had ever seen. But that wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was that it shouldn't exist. Dr. Ben Phillips, the chief engineer, came running onto the bridge. His face was red and he was breathing hard. "Captain, you need to see this. The energy readings we're getting from that thing are impossible." Jake turned to face him. "What do you mean impossible?" "I mean the ship out there is made of materials that our computers say can't exist. The metal is too heavy and too light at the same time. The energy coming from it is like nothing we've ever seen. According to everything we know about science, that ship should have fallen apart the moment it was built." Lisa finished the second scan and shook her head. "Same results, Captain. The ship is 2 kilometers long. That's bigger than our largest space stations. But somehow it's floating out there like it weighs nothing at all." Jake had been a space captain for 15 years. He had seen alien ruins and strange planets. He had fought pirates and explored unknown worlds, but he had never seen anything like this. "Where did it come from?" he asked. "That's the really strange part," Lisa said. She pressed some buttons and new information appeared on the screen. "I'm reading faint markings on the hull. It says UNS Defiance." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew that name. The Defiance disappeared 300 years ago, Dr. Phillips said slowly. "It was one of the first ships to try faster-than-light travel. They said it was lost forever." Jake felt a chill run down his back. The Defiance was famous in human history. Captain Kevin Walsh and his crew of 200 people had volunteered for a dangerous mission to test new technology. They had jumped to light speed and never came back. For 3 centuries, people had wondered what happened to them. Now they knew where the ship had gone, but they still didn't know why it looked so different. "Lieutenant Amy Brooks, are you getting any signals from the ship?" Jake asked the communications officer. Amy was a young woman who was very good with radio signals and computer messages. She listened carefully to her equipment and then nodded. "Yes, sir. I'm getting very weak power readings. Something is still working inside that ship." "Life signs?" "I can't tell from here, sir. The hull is blocking most of our scans, but there's definitely power running through parts of the ship." Jake made a decision that would change everything. Not just for his crew, but for all of humanity. "Prepare a boarding party," he said. "We're going aboard." Dr. Phillips looked worried. "Sir, we don't know if it's safe. That ship has been missing for 300 years. We don't know what happened to it or why it looks so different now." "That's exactly why we need to find out," Jake replied. "Get me a team of 6 people. Full spacesuits and emergency equipment. Lisa, you're coming with me. Ben, I need you there. 2, in case we find any technology we don't understand." "What about the rest of the crew?" Amy asked. "They stay here and keep the Pioneer ready. If something goes wrong, I want them to be able to get away fast." It took an hour to prepare for the boarding mission. Jake put on his spacesuit and checked all the equipment twice. The spacesuit was white and bulky, with a clear helmet that let him see in all directions. It had air for 6 hours and a radio to talk to his team. Lisa and Ben were ready too. along with 3 other crew members. They all carried tools and weapons just in case. Nobody knew what they would find inside the mysterious ship. Jake looked out the window of the Pioneer one more time before they left. The Defiance was floating there in the darkness, lit up by the light from a distant star. It was beautiful and scary at the same time. The ship was black and silver, with smooth curves that didn't look like any human design he knew. Strange lights moved along its hull like living things. "Remember," Jake told his team as they got into the small shuttle, "we don't know what we're going to find in there. Stay together, stay alert, and don't touch anything unless I say it's okay." The shuttle flew slowly toward the massive ship. As they got closer, Jake could see more details. The hull was covered in symbols and patterns that seemed to glow with their own light. Some parts of the ship looked normal, like the human technology he was used to, but other parts looked alien, as if they had been added by someone else. "There," Lisa pointed to a section of the ship. "I see an airlock. It looks like our standard design." They docked with the ship and waited. The airlock opened with a soft hiss of air. To everyone's surprise, there was good air pressure on the other side. "The atmosphere is breathable," Lisa said, looking at her scanner. "Temperature is normal. It's like the ship is still working perfectly after all these years." They stepped inside the Defiance and immediately noticed something strange. As soon as they entered, lights began turning on. Not the emergency lights they expected, but soft, warm lights that made the corridor feel welcoming. "The ship knows we're here," Ben whispered. Jake led the way down the corridor. The walls were smooth and clean, as if someone had been taking care of the ship every day for 300 years. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. They passed empty rooms and closed doors. Everything looked normal, but felt wrong. This was supposed to be a ship that had been lost in space for centuries. It should be cold and dark and dead. Instead, it felt alive. "Captain," Amy's voice came through the radio from the Pioneer. "I'm reading increased power levels throughout the ship. It's like it's waking up." Jake felt his heart beat faster. What had they found out here in the darkness of space? And more importantly, what had found them?